boundaries of the parish, whether or not that is now written in stone. And from there on, what you're doing is taking it from the parishes established now in stone and working your way through the details of how this will work electorally with both major political parties through your committees. So that's what Member Hilton is wanting to also confirm, that these delineations in schedule at page 3 in section 5 is written in stone and final.
Yeah. And I'm saying that that's the question. And so my appreciation is that the arguments that are being made and will be made in the courts is that this exercise that you just outlined should have been an exercise or complementing if it is seen fit. I'm not arguing about the appropriateness or not of what has already been done. The question is as to the legal effect of that. That's a separate question. Well, that's your view. That's your view. That's my view. So, but please, no, that's your view. Yeah, no. So, yeah. So, I repeat my question. I think, therefore, that the question about its effect, its legal effect, is really not a question for you to settle. Is it contemplated? You mentioned two bodies. One was the Parish Boundary Forum and the Parish Boundary Advisory Committee. Right. We have just clarified that it is intended that there be two Parish Boundary Advisory Committees, one for each parish. Is that the same being contemplated for the Parish Boundary Forum, the Parish Boundary Forum, the PDF, what you call it, right? PBF.
Right, you'd have two, one PBF for Portmore, one PBF for St. Catherine, one right. PBSE okay. for Portmore, one for PBSE for St. Catherine.
All right, so the question was then asked by the chair about the boundary that has been gazetted and whether that was in effect. She, as a boundary, she asked, the chair asked you whether the boundaries as gazetted was now in effect. And I wasn't clear about the answer to that.
Well, from what is clear is that what is gazetted is a parish boundary.
Yeah.
So we are saying, certainly from the commission, that we need to look at it relates to the electoral boundaries. That is what we need to, and that they need to be gazetted after.
Right. So the question of satisfying section this procedure and this process is for the purpose of satisfying section 67 of the Constitution.
As per constituency boundaries, electoral right. boundaries, yes.
And the PDs within that, the polling divisions within that?
Right. We'll be looking at it in a comprehensive way. We're looking at the constituency boundaries, then the electoral division boundaries, and also the PD boundaries.
And the determination, what I'm trying to get from you is that the determination, or that the process itself, the procedure, will have implication for that question that was posed about whether that is a settled matter. The question was whether the gadget...
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law do we meditate day and night. For we shall be like trees planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth our fruit in our season. Our leaves shall not wither, and whatsoever we do shall prosper. Welcome to Caribbean Radio HD for the Colin Bell Show. You are listening to excerpts from the sitting of the Constituency and the Boundaries Committee that was held in the Parliament today. And they were talking about Portmore. We have online Member of Parliament Fitz Jackson. Fitz, good evening.
Good evening, my brother. Good evening to your listeners.
Welcome to Caribbean Radio HD. I did not get a full understanding today because I heard the speaker of the house saying that, and I heard what's his name? Dr. Wheatley said that the whole thing about Portmore has been passed, it has been gazetted, and then I heard the speaker in the parliament today said it's cast in stone. Explain that to my listeners for me.
Let me start with the first reference you made to the speaker's comment about it being passed and cast in stone. It is a fact that the act has been passed.
Yes.
It has gone through the lower house, House of Representatives. It has gone to the upper house, the Senate, and passed. It was sent for the GG for his assent. That was obtained. It was gazetted. That is true. And for the act to come into force, meaning to become a law, an appointed date has to be set by the minister in charge, which happens to be the Minister of Local Government.
Right.
The court order that was given a couple of weeks ago on the application made by the People's National Party, who drew to the attention of the courts that the act, should it be brought into force, would breach the Constitution, specifically Section 67, that stipulates that no constituency boundary can straddle two parishes.
Right.
And if the act was to come into force, you have two constituencies, one that I represent, South St. Catherine, the other, East Central St. Catherine, would straddle two parishes. The new parish that is seeking to create, Portmore, and the existing remaining portion of the parish of St. Catherine. The judge ruled that would constitute a breach of the Constitution. So, if the government, which it clearly intends to do and wants to do, to create a 15 parish, it has to do so in conformity with the constitutional provision, which is in Section 67. So there's an order prohibiting the act from coming into force. So the Minister of Local Government and no other Minister of Government, as it is written in the order, can bring it into force until it is not in breach of the Section 67 as it would be.
So as is now, a date cannot be set for it to be.
So as we speak, there is no parish of Portmore. There's an act being, B-E-I-N-G, being promulgated to cause that to happen. But that has not happened as yet.
But if you listen to the Speaker of the House today...
No, please. I'm trying to deal with what the facts are and not what the Speaker's opinions are. We did not go by the opinion of anybody. We went to the courts. And it is the court, the Supreme Court, that made that ruling within its authority.
With no lesser person
so
than the Chief Justice.
Whatever the Speaker says or anybody else, to the contrary, for us, it is of no moment. You know the saying, Jamaican saying, Colin, mouth makes the chat anything?
Yes.
Okay, it applies now.
So why is it, as lawmakers, when you listen to Dr. Wheatley on Sunday night, and when you listen to the Speaker, it seems like they're about to defy the court?
Well, no. Well, they might have the intention, as they had before we went to court. They very well would have had that intention and still have the intention. But what is of significance is that whatever their intentions are, they cannot supersede the provisions of the Constitution.
The Constitution is the supreme law.
is the supreme law. And people must bear in mind, I heard the same Dr. Wheatley made the comment about the supremacy of Parliament.
That Parliament is the biggest court?
No, well, Dr. Wheatley needs to better inform himself.
Where them get that from, though?
Because it's the Constitution that establishes the Parliament. It's not the other way around.
So where they get this thing from? Because it's not him alone I hear with it. I hear quite a few GLP members of Parliament with this argument.
They say something which is not true very often. People might start to believe it. The Constitution is the Constitution until it is changed using the provisions contained in that Constitution. So
coming out of that meeting today, what did you get from it, and where is the EOJ now?
Well, to be frank with you, nothing new came out of the meeting today. Because the meeting was called to have the EOJ update the Parliament, particularly the committee, and where it is in the process of seeking to have compliance with 67 as the court order demands.
Yes.
So all the EOJ came to do is to do just that. And the director of election gave a very clear and thorough layout of the processes that will be exercised by the ECJ in complying with the court order. It is only when the court order is complied with that the act can become a functional law. As of now, it is not a functioning law.
Why is it, though, Fitzjackson, that if the government intend to turn Portmore into a parish, there are 3 established constituency in Portmore? Why is it that they don't just say, all right, we work with the borders of the 3 constituencies? Wouldn't that make it much easier?
It might be easier, but Mr. Warmington told you why that is not acceptable.
And why was that again?
He said that the intent of creating the parish of Portmore is in order to establish certain political boundaries of their choosing.
Yes.
The boundaries of the 3 constituencies that was established by the ECJ does not fulfill their desire and goal. It is for that reason why the parish proposal is the classical case of gerrymandering, using your parliamentary advantage and authority to manipulate political boundaries for your advantage and for the disadvantage of your opponent.
I realize that Comrade Anthony Hilton asked about timeline, and the EOJ said that there are no timeline at this time, but maybe when they come back in May, they might be able to put out a timeline.
If they come back in May. If they come back in May.
If
they come back in May.
What would stop them from coming back in May?
Agreed on is that in light of the update that we have had now since the last meeting, the first,
yes,
which is 2 weeks in from when they were formally advised to proceed, to give an update, which this update to me was far too early, all right? But be that as it may. But now having had the update today, and I've been informed of the various exercises that have to be done, right? It is clear that the 31st of May, which is a mere 6 weeks later, right, would not much or significant amount would have been done. But the EOJ also said between now and then, they will be in a better position to advise what the timeline is likely to be.
I am seeing an effort by the government to maybe try and push this before the next general election.
That is very clear that that is their intent, is to get some political boundaries again, makes it the case of gerrymandering for the next election. But you know, Colin, in 1979, the Electoral Advisory Committee was set up, which is the precursor to the ECJ that is there now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Recognize that the administration of elections, and among the administration of elections are constituency boundaries, political boundaries, including boundaries for divisions, that those must not be done in keeping with any partisan political timetable or agenda,
Mm-hmm.
but must be done in a very transparent way and by persons independent of both political parties. That is what governs, that is what informs how the ECJ, through the EOJ, make recommendations for constituency boundary alignments, among other things relating to holding elections. They have made it clear that they will use their conventions, their methodologies that they have developed and which have worked very well. So well have they worked that even when we had general elections, where the difference between the winning party and the losing party was only one vote, it was respected and we had political stability in the country.
Yes.
Because of those conventions. Any attempt to deviate or to circumvent that process is to put our democratic process, our democratic tradition, our democratic successes in jeopardy. And that is some of the reasons that inform the PNP taking the matter to the court to make sure that the laws and the constitution that prevail is not disturbed in a violent way and to undermine that democracy.
The last time we spoke, you said that you think that the EOJ would need about a year to do their work.
That was the approximate time I can recall from some communication that I happen to have seen from the ECJ. But the meeting today clearly outlined how extensive and how deep the exercises are. So we can understand why it will take some time.
Yes. Any update on the other court matters in terms of dates and when those will be heard?
Yes, there was a tentative date set in June. However, it clashed with another court matter on the same day, where both one of the lawyers is the lead attorney and one of the claimants, who happens to be me, is also in that case. That happens to the BNS matter.
Or the bank matter.
So they are seeking an alternate date, but we would have been around June 24th. Okay. And importantly, a lot of other substantive constitutional issues are in our submission. It is not only the crossing of the parish boundary with constituency that there is a breach of the Constitution. And so we will have a full hearing on the other matters in addition to this one. But this aspect of it has been, substantially dealt with by the court order that has been issued so far.
Sir Fitz, I want to thank you for coming on at such short notice. Thank you very much, my brother, for the update.
My pleasure.
Blessings, man. One love. Fitz Jackson, Member of Parliament for St. Catherine South. And of course, he's also the person responsible for matters to do with Portmore on behalf of the People's National Party. We catch him early, so we took him. So I'm still going to allow you to listen to some more of what happened in the parliament today?
The member?
Yes, as a parish.
No, as a parish it is.
Yes.
So because in this committee, all of us seated here, as members of parliament, we have a very good appreciation of the fact that our constituencies and ultimately the parish is delineated, is documented, is written by a description, road by road, sometimes even a landmark is used, or a river is used to generate in the mind of people in the electoral office, in our voters' minds, exactly where their constituency starts, where it ends. I have a peculiar situation where on Harbour Drive, my constituency starts at 21, where the pink house is in one constituency and the house next door is in another. And persons who are listening on would not necessarily appreciate that. So the question that is being reiterated by Member Hilton, when the Parliament passes what establishes Portmore as a parish, and it is documented in words that these are the established boundaries of the parish, whether or not that is now written in stone, and from there on, what you're doing is taking it from the parishes established now in stone and working your way through the details of how this will work electorally with both major political parties through your committees. So that's what Member Hilton is wanting to also confirm, that these delineations in schedule at page 3 in section 5.
All right, so you're listening to excerpts from the parliament today, from the Constituency Boundaries Committee, and they were discussing Portmore. At about 4:30, we're going to be joined by Michael Phillips, the opposition spokesman on transport and works. So we're going to be talking to Michael about JUTC. So stay with us right here on Caribbean Radio HD.
In stone and final.
Yeah. And I'm saying that's the question. And so my appreciation is that the arguments that are being made and will be made in the courts is that this exercise that you just outlined should have been an exercise or complementing, if it is seen fit. I'm not arguing about the appropriateness or not of what has already been done. The question is as to the legal effect of that. That's a separate question. Well, that's your view. That's your view. That's my view. So, but please, that's your view. Yeah, no. So, yeah. So, I repeat my question. I think, therefore, that the question about its effect, its legal effect, is really not a question for you to settle.
Right. We are not here to answer that aspect of it. I think from a commission, we are more concentrating on, as is our remit,
You can't opine on that.
constituency boundaries. That's where our remit is. And
We are satisfied.
Quite correct. The Attorney General made it very clear to us at the last meeting that the establishment of the parish is the purview of the Parliament, which has been done. The establishment now of the various constituency boundaries would be in consultation with the relevant stakeholders and would come back to us here at the Boundaries Committee for further discussion. So we are very clear in that regard. Member Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I listened very carefully, Mr. Director, of your update. And you are proposing these constituency, divisional, and polling division, parish council division and polling division boundaries in the context of a parish boundary. It was said that as of now, that act that was passed and gazetted is not in effect by virtue of the court's ruling that it cannot, one step that was outlined is for the minister to set the designated date for the act to come in effect. That has not been done. So the law does not exist for all practical purposes. I just wanted to be clear that you are mindful that such an act is not in effect.
You may go ahead, Member Mr. Brown. And for me, Member Jackson, yes, I am very clear because the first sheet of the act says the date notified by the minister bringing the act into operation. And it is so highlighted here.
If I may, that said and acknowledged, Mr. Director, the exercise that you are going through with all the recommendations that you set out that would ultimately come to the Parliament through this committee represents mere proposal in the context that a parish does not exist.
Member, I wouldn't be able to agree with you there as chair.
No.
And I'll tell you why.
Madam Chair,
because this is already
Madam Chair,
this is already law.
Madam Chair.
And Mr. Brown, may I speak?
No,
Member?
but I wasn't completed. Could you allow
so
me?
that is not a question we can ask,
But
Mr.
Madam
Brown.
Chair, why can't I be allowed to ask my question?
Mr.
You
Brown,
can differ.
No, Mr. Brown is not in a position.
But let him determine that. He's here to answer.
He actually answered that question before.
No, but I want the clarification from him. So can't I be granted that privilege?
Well, the AG answered us last meeting, member.
Madam Chair, is this a committee of all members?
Hold on a moment. Mr. Jackson, most inappropriate Member Jackson. So Member Jackson, Mr. Brown answered that question for you before. He cannot speak to anything legally as it relates to the Act of Parliament. That is not his remit. That is not the purpose. No, hold on, Mr. Jackson. I'm going to turn your mic on again.
So
no, you can't tell the man if you're making sense or not. Member, no, member, not appropriate.
Sir Jackson, mic was turned off.
Hello, Mr. Jackson. So, Mr. Jackson, you can ask your question. However, I caution you, Mr. Jackson, Member Jackson, that we have already established both in the last meeting and earlier today in this current meeting that it is not Mr. Brown's remit to speak to anything as it relates to legal designation about anything to do with the parish, anything to do with the parish. It is a parliamentary procedure passed in Parliament, and this is where the discussion would have to be only in Parliament. When Mr. Brown and the ECJ comes back to us, it will be a discussion about boundaries, which is the remit of the committee. And I would say to you, Mr. Brown, since Mr. Jackson is feeling so aggrieved, remind you, it is not your remit to speak as it relates to the legal document in respect of the establishment of the parish.
Can I speak now, Madam Chair?
Member Jackson and then Member Hilton.
Okay, thank you. You know, Madam Chair, before I go into the crux of my question, these committees of Parliament, for all the years that I've been here, provides a forum for members of Parliament to seek and obtain clarification on issues from members who appear before here. So it is the privilege accorded a member to ask any question for their own clarification. A question from a member does not constitute a decision of the committee. And I was never purporting that to be the case. I was proceeding to ask of the executive, of the director of election, if it's his understanding, he can answer yes or no. And as often the case, if it is not his remit to speak to certain issues which have a legal nature, the competence of the officer allows him to so answer. And you ought not to be tried to be guided in one direction or the other,
Thank
as
you, Member
you have now
Jackson.
attempted to do.
No, Member Jackson, thank
And
you.
I take offense to that, Madam Chair.
Turn your mic on, Mr. Brown.
Just that implied earlier on, and I said earlier on, that our understanding of our assignment is guided by what are the rules of the Constitution in 67. And therefore, we won't be making any comment as it relates to the parish boundary when the legality of it. What we are being asked to do is to concentrate on the electoral side of what is required. And that's where our remit is, and that's where our focus is as a commission.
Thank you very much.
So we're giving you some more of the expert. We just touch base with Michael Phillips. He's gonna be joining us in a little while, but we just want to give you a chance to listen a little bit more from the Parliament today. The Constituency Boundaries Committee
Member
met today.
Hilton and then Member Bartlett.
So, Madam Chair, appropriate to what has now been clearly established, I would just say that in respect of your own injunction, that the legality of what has been done is not an appropriate question for the director. I am in total agreement with. And therefore, the effect, to ask a question about the effect of what has been done is really not in his remit either. What I will ask, though, is whether, Director, the procedures that you have just outlined.
Correction, Member Hilton. The effect as it relates to the words that are documenting, because it will flow in terms of the work he will be doing or the ECJ along with our joint parties do in the committees to come. So the question I'm asking is not the effective date of the act or anything. I'm asking about the effect of the written wording of the establishment of the spaces. That's really what I'm asking about. So that's all I'm asking.
Yeah,
because no matter what, this is where he would take the information to guide the process going forward.
Fine.
So just for clarity.
So I understand it in the sense of guiding the work to be done. But when you ask for effect, you talked about the legal effect. And I'm saying we agree that is not the province or the remit of the director. I think we have agreed on that. And I was moving on now to ask the director, you have outlined a series of procedures, some of it layered. And my question to you is, do you have a sense at this juncture about what sort of timeline you're working with?
Well, you'll agree with member that there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done. We have not yet arrived, we have not finalized a timeline as such. We're working on those. As soon as those timelines are available, certainly when we come back on the 31st of May, we'll be able to provide the committee with a better indication John, of the timeline. But we are working on it. We have not agreed upon them yet. And therefore, we are not able to definitely say the timeline.
All
One
right.
moment for
So
legal.
we stop it right there, ladies and gentlemen, viewers. Once again, welcome to Caribbean Radio HD. This is the Colin Bell Show, coming to you live from the studios of Portland Spice TV here in Port Antonio, Portland, Jamaica. We are on Caribbean Radio right across the US, and we just want to thank the people in the chat room. Brother Leaford, big up yourself. Sister Tanya, Sister Melrose, all the people in the chat room over that side. Florence Brown, Elaine Brown, Juliet Jackson, good evening. Sue, bless up. Andrea Blake, listening to what took place today in the parliament. Now, there's another issue at hand that we are going to be looking at. Every developed city have a public transportation system that is able to move large amount of people across the city. Some city even put in place what is called congestion charge when we talk about London. If you drive through London certain times of the day, you will have to pay what is called a congestion charge. And one of the reasons for that is to ease the traffic congestion in the city. Now, I don't know when was the last time a lot of you going to Kingston and peak hours catch you. And it gets worse if it starts to rain. The city is clogged. We heard the Minister of Transportation saying that they are going to give up some of the routes, I think 21 routes. And the opposition spokesman, Michael Phillips, responded. And we're going to touch the response so you can hear it.
It is now clear that the government of Jamaica and the Minister of Transport in particular has decided to take a wrecking ball to the JUTC, smashing all hopes of a reliable and efficient public transport service in the capital city. It is now urgent for the minister to update the nation on the JUTC's policy and operational plans. It is necessary, given that while the company is abandoning its core responsibility in the KMTR, it has recently expanded service into 6 rural routes already licensed to private operators. Recently, Hackney carriage licenses were recently flung open in the KMTR on the same routes that they are now licensing route taxi operators. The minister has a duty to clarify whether these are part of a new policy direction or simply a piecemeal action with the potential to devastate the sector. What is the national plan that this administration has for public transport island-wide is what we have been asking, and we are yet to get an answer from this minister and this administration. It is evident that there is no plan, and we are worried that the sector will be wrecked in the shortest space of time.
Michael Phillips, good evening. Welcome to Caribbean Radio HD. How you doing?
Good evening to you. Good evening to your listeners. I'm great.
So we were just listening that press release that you put out about the JUTC giving up 21 routes or 23?
23 routes.
23 routes. Speak to us about it.
The minister put out a release stating that the JUTC will be giving up 23 routes and actually putting route taxes on those routes. And we are saying that that is a backward step. Not that we have an issue with persons getting route taxes licensed, but the where we're coming from in our public transport system of the 80s, and having worked so hard to put a modern transport system in the Kingston metropolitan area, then to see this administration reverse the gains of what Jamaica has achieved, not a People's National Party administration, but just us as a country, in putting in the Jamaica Urban Transit Company at great cost to the public. To see them reverse that gain is really something that is heart-wrenching. It is very sad. And we have been asking for that national transport plan, because let us compare what we had in 2016 compared to what we have now.
Talk to me.
So in 2016, the JUTC they are rolling out on a daily basis about 430 buses on a daily basis. From today, the JUTC is rolling out under 200 buses on a daily basis. This is even after purchasing 175 new buses. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The fare box of the JUTC then, in 2016, was anywhere between $3 to $3.5 billion annually.
Yeah.
The fare box of the JUTC now is below $1.3 billion.
And that would stand to reason if they are rolling out less than half the amount of buses.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
the
go ahead.
Subsidy from the taxpayers in 2016 was about $3 billion. The subsidy from taxpayers today is in the region of $10.5 billion.
Hold on, that not add up. So why is the subsidy so much more now than when we had more buses? Explain that.
But that is why I keep asking the minister, what is the national plan? And when you look at the losses of the JUTC, 2016 it was anywhere between $2 billion to $3.5 billion. It is now $10.5 billion the losses of the JUTC.
$10.5 billion?
$10.5 billion in losses.
10?
Yeah.
T-E-N?
T-E-N.
Coming from 2 to 3 billion in 2016?
Yeah.
You also said in the parliament that the expense of the JUTC is almost the same as it was back in 2016.
So if you look at what the expenses, so they're rolling out half the buses, but spending more money on half of the fleet. No business can survive like that.
And what is the reason for that?
And in that case, it is those who utilize the JUTC in the urban center that benefits from the subsidy in fares. The rest of Jamaica, who pays taxes and subsidize the JUTC, are the ones who are not benefiting from it.
Right.
So the minister decided now that, one, they gave up the routes to the Hackney carriage operators, and after, they stepped in to save a bad situation, because the JUTC, which was not providing adequate seats to the traveling public, the Hackney carriage operators and the KMTR had to fill those seats.
But some people...
What the government has decided to do now is to convert some of those routes into route taxi routes.
But some people say that would make sense based on the fact that JUTC don't have the amount of buses to move the people.
Well, there are a couple of things, and franchising out the routes is not something new to the JUTC.
Mm.
So if you use Waterhouse to downtown Kingston, from day one that has been franchised out. So if you see those 15-seater coaster bus, 15-seater buses, flying that route in yellow, they are franchised. They have bought a franchise license from the JUTC.
Mm.
So it is nothing new, but in this instance, what they're doing is handing over the routes to the transport authority, giving up the routes, and then the transport authority then decide that they will now put licensed route taxi operators on those routes. But the minister then, after we sent out our press release, the minister then came back with another one to say that they will not be removing the JUTC from those routes.
He was in the news saying that today.
And there's going to be a time issue of when it is that the route taxis operate. That is nonsense.
You can't tell taximan. You can't tell taximan that.
But also, the JUTC still doesn't have enough buses to ply those routes. And for you to, is a slap in the face of the operators, for him to tell them that they can only operate during certain hours.
Rubbish. So
that's rubbish.
What he's saying to us then is that in peak hours the route taxi wouldn't be able to operate, or they would only operate in peak hours.
Probably off peak hours.
Why? So you're gonna tell me, so when it a flourish, me can't make no money and me must go out there when everything slow down?
The reason why the minister came up with that solution is because he did not think about how it is that the route taxi would operate. They still do not have any parking slots for these route taxis. And the minister is just whimsically just pulling things out of a hat and hoping that it will work. You cannot run a country like that, and you cannot run the transport sector like that.
You said you've been asking for a national transportation plan and none was forthcoming. Do you think that it is that they don't have any?
They don't.
So what is it that the PNP would do differently, Michael Asher Phillips?
Well, the first thing we have to do is to fix the JUTC. The government has to take responsibility for the breakdown of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company. They have been in power for 9 years, and they waited 8 years before purchasing any new buses.
So they make it run down.
And then now they're trying to play catch up to purchase buses when they know that they will not be able to afford the amount of buses that is needed for the JUTC to bring it back up to its normal levels.
Yes.
Right? So the first thing is that we proposed a rural bus system, but we said that we would roll out the rural bus system using JUTC as part of that rural bus system. But this is after we have dealt with the issue of the KMTR, which the JUTC has an exclusive license for.
So you must be able to service where you have the license for already.
And reduce the losses to the taxpayers. And we had proposed about franchising out part of the KMTR to operators.
Yeah.
But at the same time, finding a way to facilitate them to purchase vehicles that are conducive for public transport. So what we want to do is to grow the sector and grow the investors who are investing in the public transport sector. So if you look at the JUTA or the JUTA, the tourism sector itself, the U-Drive owners, which is the renter cars, they get a concession to bring in vehicles for the tourism sector.
Yeah.
Why should we not treat the public transport sector in the same way?
So they said that they're doing that now.
They're not doing that now. We are proposing that.
But there's a big song and dance that taxi man now can go buy them own taxi, 10-year-old and 20-year-old bus.
Look, we understand what they're doing is saying that they can buy 10-year-old cars or 15-year-old buses. What we want to do is to facilitate them to get newer vehicles, newer buses.
So you are saying that the PNP will give duty concession to taxi operators?
That once we formalize the sector itself, right? Yeah. And the organizations are duly operating, then it is a proposal that we're putting on the table that we do give the concession to the bodies
Yeah.
so that their members can purchase buses that can be used in the public transport sector.
And they'll get the same kind of treatment that Juta and Decal them get.
Yes. We have to treat the public transport sector not as a hustle, but as a business.
Proper business, yes.
Yes.
In terms of Kingston, Mikhail, Kingston, I was just saying to my listeners, and we have a lot of people overseas listening right now, and I was just saying to them, maybe a lot of them have not been to Kingston for a very long time. But when I left Port Antonio and come to Kingston, and peak hours catch me, it is pain. And then I'm also realizing that even when you reach into Kingston, 10 o'clock, the traffic jams are still everywhere. What are the solutions being put on the table by the People's National Party to deal with that gridlock in Kingston City?
And you have to look at the road network. And the thing is that we have not really done a good study in dealing and looking at our road network in the Kingston metropolitan area and most of our town centers. So you have to probably turn some of the roads into one way.
Yes.
Synchronizing your stoplights. But I don't think a proper study has been done. On top of it, the government continues to license public passenger vehicles, having nowhere for them to park, and they have no other where to park but on the street side.
And then they get ticket from the police.
And then they then ticket them to say that they should not be there. So it is like the cart pulling the horse instead of the horse pulling the cart.
So there's no structure.
Right? And what we see now is that the government makes a lot of grand announcements, but there's nothing behind it. And we're saying that slow down, because to fix the public transport sector, it should be in everybody's interest.
Yes.
So I have committed to being a part of it, but what I realize that this minister has done, he's organized this sector group. And instead of doing real research, what he's doing is having them take the hard decisions for him. I cannot be a part of a group like that.
Explain that to us. I don't understand what you just said.
So, since Minister Vaz has been appointed minister, he said that he wants everybody at the table. And as a spokesperson, opposition spokesperson, I accepted that because it is something that I have always been proposing, that to bring all the groupings together. And then, so when he wanted to set the bus fare, he then said to the sector group, tell me what it is that I should be charging.
Oh.
Right? And I said, no, this is not for the sector group. This is for the minister. And what it is the minister wanting persons to say, hey, I did not take that decision alone. It was taken by these people. So why are you pointing fingers on me?
Look cover.
He's looking for a cover.
Mikhail, there's another announcement that he made that in the last 3 months, the JUTC has saved $90 million. So what he was saying, what he has said to us is that for the last 8 years plus, every month the JUTC lost $30 million to theft and pilferage and all kind of things. How all of a sudden now they are saving that?
Look, so I have to commend the team at the JUTC for shutting down that illegal trade of diesel, which was coming from fuel from out of the buses.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the Standing Finance Committee of Parliament, I questioned the minister, why is it that half of your fleet, I think 60% of his current fleet now, are CNG buses?
Yeah.
Right?
And you still have the same amount of diesel floating around.
CNG buses and electric buses. So our fuel bill should be falling.
Yes.
But in this instance, the fuel bill for the JUTs is expected to increase by over $1.3 million.
What can go so? But Mikhail,
Exactly.
but Mikhail, you have these LNG buses and there are some electric buses as well.
Yes, they are. So your fuel bill should be falling, not increasing. Because you should be using less diesel, because 60% of your fleet are CNG buses, which they can't steal.
Because they have no use for it.
They just can't steal. Yeah, they have no use for it.
So tell me something. Do you really believe that all of a sudden them just stop this pilferage just stops? So because I don't believe it, Mikhail.
No.
I think it's a number just thrown it.
They actually caught some persons.
Oh, they did.
And a couple of illegal depots that was stealing out there.
Oh.
The details of the buses.
So some people gone to jail?
Yes, they arrested a few persons.
Oh, very well.
And that's why I ended up commending them.
Very well.
Yeah.
But they took 8 years to do this. 8
a lot
years.
of finger pointing is taking place. But we will have to make a difference when we get into government.
Definitely. And Mikhail, finally, before I let you go, what anything you want to add on that? Just a little bit on the rural bus service or the rural plans for assistance with rural school children that the comrade leader has pointed out in the budget presentation.
Well, I see the government has purchased some buses and they're going to be rolling it out in the rural Jamaica.
You see more than one, Mikhail? Hold on. Have you seen more than one?
No, they have purchased, I think, 50 buses.
But have you seen more than one in Jamaica?
Not as yet. They're not. But to my understanding is that they're not here as yet.
Also, only one day here?
I think it's 2 or 1, yes.
Well,
out in Portland.
I
think
see
you have 2 out in Portland.
No, hold on. They are not in Portland. One come to Portland one time, pass it a St. Mary a leave. We have not seen it since.
Okay.
It come and take some pictures and sing and dance, but the bus is not in Portland, sir.
So, to my understanding, though, is that what is happening is that, well, they're supposed to be bringing. We have proposed about 3 years ago in my sectoral presentation. We proposed a school bus, a rural school bus system, and a rural bus system for elderly persons with disabilities and school children, subsidized, probably not at the same rate as being subsidized in the KMTR, but a subsidy for those groups. The challenge that you have is really to be able to purchase the buses. Now, these are second-hand buses that the government has purchased.
Yeah.
We are yet to see how they manage our terrain. They're refurbished buses. So, I can't say much on those, but we are still going to be moving forward with our plan on a rural bus system, and at the same time, that in itself will involve private operators.
Yeah. Okay.
To invest in buses and to be able to transport school children at a subsidized cost.
Okay. Mikhail Phillips, anything further you want to add before we let you go?
Well, the Spark program, you didn't ask about the Spark. I know we're here to talk about the public transport.
That's an important program for us here in Portland. And if you're talking about roads, we have roads to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, well, the Spark, so the government has reached to work order number 4. And the work order number 1 has not even started fully yet. So we're trying to figure out what it is and how it is that we're going to even complete when it is only one contractor that is trying to do all of the work.
So it's a lot of announcements.
So it's a lot of announcements with no real results. And that is how this government has operated. And I think at some point you have to be honest with the people. And while the Prime Minister is still parading around the island, blaming others for his government's failures, he needs to own to his failures and not continue blaming others. Because the road network itself has deteriorated over a very long time. But if you look at the amount of investment that has been put in it, apart from doing one or two new roads, it is why now that we are facing what we're facing with a bad road network island-wide, and the government having to find multiples of billions of dollars to try and play catch-up in dealing with it.
The St. Thomas Road, Mikhail, St. Thomas Harbour View into Port Antonio. What is the lifespan of that road if you find out yet?
Well, the lifespan of that road should be anywhere between 7 to 10 years. And I doubt, as I said to others, when we try to blame local contractors, we still have to hold the Chinese to account also. Because if you're to go on Mandela Highway, half of the road is stinking and there are potholes now appearing on the road itself.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So my question is, where did we go wrong with the oversight of the projects that are owned by the government of Jamaica? And why it is that we are using one standard for one set and a different standard for the others?
I have a serious issue with the quality of the work that I have seen. And I'll tell you that the road between Port Antonio to Boston, there's no sub-base. Just some mall and some asphalt. And I blame that to the amount of money that has been allocated because they've been moving money from this road left, right, and center. And we don't see where it's going to last. We see St. Thomas, they had to dig it up many times.
We have, it's going to be an interesting time ahead of us. What we have to do, what we will have to do and continue to do is just continue being honest for the people. Try and explain to the people where we are, what it is that we're doing, and what it is that we're achieving. And do what is right for the people, not ourselves and not ourselves as a political party. We're only there to we get elected by the people to serve the people. And that's how we have always operated.
$40 billion Sparks program. When will that be completed?
Well, at the rate that they're doing, I don't see that the Spark program will be completed. The 100 roads that they've even announced, I don't see it being completed for this financial year.
Wow, so up to March 31st next year, you don't think those roads will be completed?
No.
And the Sparks program, Servant David, big up yourself. These roads, will they be rehabilitated or they will be patched?
No, these are rehabilitated roads.
So the REACH program is the patch program?
Yes, the REACH program is the patch program.
And the SPEED program is what?
And the what?
SPEED. Them now one name SPEED and one name REACH and one name Sparks.
Yeah, there's so much, but no, I don't know.
And there's also, they just announced a $1 billion per quarter to patch road as well.
Oh, but 1.5 billion, that is what they have always spent from existence. I think it's probably about $1 billion. They probably put 500 million more on it. But you just spent $3 billion on REACH, and you are not seeing the full effects of that $3 billion. So spending half of that on a quarterly patching program is not going to make much of a difference to the deteriorated road network that we have now.
So you are suggesting that they are wasting the money?
Look, we have suggested that you need to relook at a dedicated fund, a road maintenance fund, right? So
wasn't that in place? Wasn't that road maintenance fund in place?
And the act was repealed by this administration, yes.
And leave the road to mash up.
Yeah, as I said, you have to start thinking and think outside of the box and do things that are necessary to advance the country in a positive way. this government has continued to just make announcements
After
on
announcement.
announcements without any true results, and the people need to hold them accountable for it.
Mikhail Phillips, let me thank you for joining us this evening. It's a pleasure talking to you, my brother.
It's good to be here.
All the
Thanks.
best.
Good.
Go on, love. Listeners, viewers, that was Mikhail Phillips, the Shadow Minister of Transportation and Works, talking to us mainly about the JUTC. What an evening. Caribbean Radio HD. DJ Shane, good afternoon, sir. Sister Tanya, Servant David, Sister Melrose, big up on yourself, Sister Maxine, Sister Marcia. We're opening the phone lines 876-804-7072, 305-654-7944. We're taking your calls. A lot of issues to discuss. Whole heap of issues. And we're not even sure some of the things them where the people them are talk about. Because, you know, if you're a government, you have to take responsibility for your tenure. And if you are in government for 9 years, anything when you fix long time are your responsibility. 9 years is a long time. And most things have to get serious maintenance, brush up within 9 years. If you build it at your first year, it will need some maintenance before the 9th year. And I want to say to you that most of our infrastructure was in place before this government came. And therefore, if you come and sit down and not do no maintenance, things are going to mash up. That's why 4 operating theater at the public hospital went down at once. 4. Because they're not looking at maintenance. There's also a piece that came out in the Gleaner that says Carnival, Jamaica Carnival, brings over $90 billion to the economy. As much as I have told you about the culture and the creative industry and what it can do, those figures sounds elevated to me. Sound like them blow up them figures there. $90 billion. I think it's 90 or 95.4. Let me look. I can look and tell you. I have my doubts as it relates to those figures. I know the possibility of the industry. I understand events. Yeah? $95.4 billion. Carnival, it says Jamaica Carnival 2024 generated $95.4 billion and benefited more than 115,000 people. Now, the amount of people that it benefited could be real. Because these entertainment events touch a lot of people in different ways. And the research was done on the direct returns and indirect. However, I think that them blow up the figure them. Bro Bailey, big up yourself. I think them blow up the figure them. But, Babette, it's still said to the people of Jamaica and people who have been listening to my program over the years that I've been telling you all that the culture and the creative industry is a major plank if we're talking about growing the Jamaican economy. Now, something shocked me today coming out of the mouth of the Prime Minister. So, they broke ground for the commercial zone a commercial zone at Caymanas Estate. And the Prime Minister admit that Comrade Anthony Hilton, we had him on the program. When was it that we had Anthony Hilton? Was it 2 Saturdays ago? But I'm sure we played some of it for you. Because Anthony Hilton, MP, is the man who's been talking about logistics. And he came on this program and he told us that there are 3 logistics hubs in the world. One in Europe, one in Singapore, one in Saudi Arabia. And that Jamaica needs to develop the logistics hub for the Americas. Well, Prime Minister Andrew Holness admit that Anthony Hilton is the father of the groundbreaking today. And I am happy to hear the Prime Minister admit that Anthony Hilton is the man with the plan. And Anthony Hilton told us here that the present government don't understand the logistics business. And therefore, we are at a space and a place where the People's National Party needs to be in government to execute the putting down of this infrastructure. Anthony Hilton told us about the hardware and the software if you're developing a logistics hub. And as the Prime Minister admits that Anthony Hilton is the man who understands this. And therefore, I also believe that the best person, Nicky Boo, the best person to execute an idea is the person whose idea it is. Because that person will have a passion for the idea and want to see it work and will do everything in their power to see it work. Iris Smith says, do they understand the responsibility of government? Are they just saying the people of Jamaica? Or styling, sorry. Are they just styling the people of Jamaica? You see, we have to understand when people run out of ideas. And I heard Bobby Montague begging members of the GLP that if you don't have ideas, to come with them because they're looking ideas to put in the manifesto. They are looking ideas to put in the GLP manifesto. Florence Brown said we just want the PM to call the election. Well, I don't see them calling the election right now. I thought the election was going to be called this month and held in May. But one of the things that we have to now understand is that CXC has started. And when CXC start, you can't go call election in a CXC. So they have to wait until CXC is finished. And I'm still calling out to the Prime Minister because I heard him mention today about the Bonebrook Urban Center. And I'm saying to the Labourites who listen to my program, call the Prime Minister and tell him that the East Harbour should be done first. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't do an urban center. I am just saying if you have one money, is the East Harbour that needs to be done. The East Harbour first, and then you can deal with whatever. Because the urban center now bring no new money. The conceptualization of a plan should be executed. The conceptualizer of the plan should be the executor of same. You make me look good before I say, me can't read. Hallelujah. We had Isaac Buchanan on the program yesterday evening. I want to say good evening to the next member of parliament for East Portland, Comrade Isaac Buchanan. It was a breath of fresh air. So we are saying in Port Antonio. And no disrespect, but you know, come from here, you must listen to we. It is not what the politician wants, it's what the people needs. And the need for Portland and East Portland is the East Harbor that will put cash in the pockets of our people. Outside of the building stage of the urban center, it's not going to put no extra cash in people. And I tell you, it's not going to give you more than about 30 to 50 new jobs. Because moving NHT from uptown, go down at the urban center, all of the employees are already at NHT. Moving NIS, the employees are already there. Just that they are in a rented building. And this is also going to be a rented building because remember, this is a project. This is a project that has been supported by NCB and Barita. Iris, these people are blind, Bartimus. Blind, they don't have no vision. And that's why the people of Portland are perishing. We saw the rains lock off the people again from Craig Mill, Carl Carty. The people from Craig Mill get locked off yesterday and the day before because the rains came and there was a serious problem. You know, one of the things I want to check out, and I should have asked Fitz Jackson, because I heard Dr. Wheatley say over 300,000 people live in Portmore. Now, that brings in a question. There are presently 3 constituencies in Portmore, but you might say all over the place, but I just remember this issue. 3 constituencies in Portmore. Are you aware that the law says a constituency shouldn't have more than 38,000 and change, call it 39,000 voters? So if you have 3 constituencies at 39,000, that is 100 and about 3 nines what? 27, 90, 117,000 voters. And if you said 300,000 people over there, then maybe about 150,000 could be eligible to vote. So the question that came to my mind is it that are we going to be expanding the amount of constituencies? Just a thought that came to my mind when I hear about the amount of people. But so, you are right. The population census has not been completed. $4 billion. $4 billion, Juliet, has been allocated for the census, the population census. And to date, we don't hear nothing about the census. We don't hear nothing about the $4 billion. I see. You have some people who are upset when I come on and I talk because I put these things on the table and make them very simple. Caribbean Radio HD. I want to remind you to check out my social media angles. Check me out on YouTube at Portland Spice TV. Please subscribe to my channel. Like up my video them and share them. I'm also on TikTok at Colin Shakafie Bell. And of course, you know, on a Tuesday and Wednesday, we come to you live on Caribbean Radio HD. Bro Gary Radio. Yeah, man. Big up yourself, bro Bailey. DJ Shane, Sister Tanya, Sister Maxine, Sister Nesbeth, Leaford Palmer, Sister Niece, big up on herself. Cynthia, haven't seen you in a long time, Cynthia. Welcome. Good evening. Yeah, man, so the phone lines are open if you want to talk to me. 876-804-7072, 305-654-7944. Those are the numbers to call if you want to talk to us right here on Caribbean Radio HD. You heard earlier from Fitz Jackson. We gave you excerpts of the sitting of the Constituency Boundaries Committee. And then you heard from Mikhail Asha Phillips, the opposition spokesman on transport. And a lot of hanky-panky going on at JUTC. Lot of hanky-panky. Lot of money wasting at JUTC. And I believe that there are a lot of incompetence and a lot of cronyism taking place at the JUTC. And therefore, with less than half the amount of buses we had in 2016, we're spending more, losing more, and collecting less. There's only one part of that adds up to the maths. If you have less bus, you're going to collect less money. But you shouldn't be spending more than you used to spend. And that's a serious, serious problem that is happening at JUTC. Must fix, need to fix. Yesterday, I played you a clip from a town hall meeting that was done. And we just played you about 10 seconds. King, big up. Ryan, good evening to you. We just played you about 10 seconds. I want to play 2 minutes and 36 seconds of that clip now.
Who would voter warrants as their prime minister? Why is your leader the better one?
He's the only one that's certified. Reality. Yeah. But on a serious note, if we were thinking of voting just based on who the leader is, and we want to examine both of them, Mark Oden has the intellectual acumen. He does have the experience. He does have the legal background, which makes him one of the best legislators in the parliament. His business background gives him the understanding of the economic management. He has the love and the social upbringing that can resonate in South St. Andrew, where the people love him. He has the history, the strong family history of catering to members of the disabled community. His father. He has done what many thought was not possible in bringing together the PNP to be united and strong. I do believe that the integrity point is an important point as well. If 10 years ago we were talking about somebody not being certified and taking the Integrity Commission to court, all of us would think that's the end of that person's career. So what we have is a prime minister that is unable to be certified, whereas we have the opposition leader who is certified every year. And that is significant in the minds of persons out there, because corruption does wrong the culture of several opportunities. And so I believe, I don't agree fully with your statement that people only vote based on who the prime minister is, because based on polling data that we have, 70% of persons vote based on the party. And that's why if you put a candidate in place the day of nomination, they will still poll a certain number of votes. About 20% vote based on who the lead of the parties and the next 10% vote based on the candidate. So the persons from East and St. Andrew will be able to give Auntie Favour an A for absent for today. So
Hold on, listeners and viewers. I have Conrad O'Brien on the line, but I want to touch about this. That's Conrad here, the first part of it. Conrad, listen to this.
Voter was as the Prime Minister. Why is your leader the better one?
he's the only one that's certified.
So, I don't know if you have heard this before, Obi. The question was asked to Dayton Campbell. Who should the people choose as their Prime Minister? Who is the better Prime Minister? And the first words that came out of Dayton Campbell's mouth is, he's the only one that is certified.
Yes, I heard I listened I watched the program last night and TV and television. I watched it last night, and indeed I heard the very, very affluent and hardworking General Secretary of the People's National Party, Dr. Dayton Campbell. And certainly, you see, Colin, unfortunately, that is what is on the lips of a number of Jamaican people. You know, and it's basically gaining traction. It had some traction before, but I can tell you that since yesterday, when Dayton came up with it, you know,
yes,
with Arthur's song, I hear a lot of people now just saying that, boy, is one man certified. You know, and they're using that to basically mock the Prime Minister. And certainly that can't be good at all. You know,
Obi,
doesn't look good at all.
Obi,
but it's the fact. It is the fact.
Obi, you are a man who is in mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the media has really done justice to this issue?
No, not at all, Colin. Is a very few of us are prepared to really buck tackle certain issue head on, you know. And when you talk to some people, they said, "Listen, boy, the government is really the largest spender in the advertising business these days." You know, so therefore one has to be careful about what you say. But you know, I am doing it to my peril. You know, so I am not getting those adverts that, you know, one would expect that I would get, because certainly I have the numbers, you know, even day before yesterday and Monday, you know, the numbers that I racked up on TikTok and other social media spaces, you know, is really, really phenomenal. Right. So I have numbers there, but I'm not getting the dollar, the advertising spend. So to answer your question, Colin, directly, no, I don't think so at all. I think the Port Estate, mainstream media, had really dropped the ball and you know, say what you want. Although we see where Donald Trump returned for a second term, but certainly the media never leave the issues of Donald Trump, that he was impeached and all sorts of things and so on. You think Jamaican media is brave enough to continue to carry this, to say, listen, the Prime Minister is uncertified? He is indeed uncertified.
That's a fact. And not just for 1 year, nor 2 years, but for 3 years.
And remember now, Colin, that we have this year, which would make the 4th year, because this year is certainly hasn't been certified for the last year that had just been concluded.
So it's 2020. It's 2021, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, and now we are looking at 24, 25.
Indeed. So all in all, it's not a good look at all. And you know, I remember, Colin, back in the day when I was full-time in the financial business,
sector full time.
Uh-huh.
You know, you just could not go there and write a policy without you basically meet the fit and proper. You have to be certified.
Yes.
You have to be certified.
Yes.
So, you know, it is important certification in that regard as to your fit and proper. It's a very important matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I talk over and over in a column, and I don't basically hide away from it. I put it out there. I said, listen, I have respect for the Prime Minister, knowing that, as he said to us, well, it shifts from time to time. It depends on what suits him. He said he was born in a one-bedroom boardhouse, that he shifts to a two-bedroom. But however, whatever that is, you know, I hail him as a man who is coming from humble beginnings.
Yes.
And certainly, you know, reached to the highest level of being Prime Minister. But that said, we have to hold him accountable. Once he reaches that lofty position, he has to be held to account.
Of course. And I am of the position that if the Prime Minister is not willing to put his documents on the table, because he has taken the Integrity Commission to court, and my view is that to shut down people from talking about the issue. But if an election is coming up and the Prime Minister is going to be on the ballot, he needs to put his documents on the table, up for scrutiny for journalists, and he must give interviews to people who are not singing on his choir.
Absolutely, Colin. And one would remember, and you know, I'm going to call a name now, and it's a lady that I have the greatest regard for as one of the top journalists in Jamaica, Mrs. Diane Jackson Miller of RJR fame.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember when Portia Simpson Miller was the Prime Minister, and she would basically be saying it every single day. The Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller needs to sit down and have a
interview.
Audience, have a meeting with, have addressed the media rather. So, you know, all journalists from all media houses and so on can basically put questions to her. Well, and I dare say, Colin, that, you know, a part of the landscape that I would imagine would be a part of this panel would have to take in the social media, the various YouTube, podcasters and so on who are really out there, because certainly a lot of our people, that's where they are now listening. The landscape has changed, so you have to basically bring in social media as a part.
Because a lot of us are racking up bigger numbers now than some of the mainstream media houses.
Absolutely,
and at least we can prove our numbers. No, Conrad, I am of the opinion, and somebody in the chat room is saying that some of the journalists them afraid of the Prime Minister, because if you dare to go out there and call out these people, they are not afraid to victimize you and put you to the sword if they think that's what they need to do to you. And that may be one of the reasons why a lot of journalists and a lot of broadcasters and vloggers are afraid to call out the Prime Minister, because they will come at you.
Well, certainly, Colin, and as I addressed the issue earlier, I said, listen, apart from coming at you, there is also the spend. You understand? You listen to media houses and so on, especially one in particular, and you hear even the time by GIS. GIS is advertising. I mean, what can go so? So, you know, and I don't hear it all over the place. I hear it specific to a particular media house.
Somebody in the chat room is asking a question that I am going to answer. The person says, where Mark Golding birth certificate? And did he renounce the British citizenship? you know, it is rather strange that Mark Golding renounced his British citizenship and showed proof of it. And one of the biggest YouTube channel in Jamaica.
Yes.
Andre Stevenson Partner Draw TV. Mark Golding showed proof of the renunciation of his British citizenship. And you know, hear nothing about it.
Well, you know, Colin, that person is certainly being disingenuous.
Well, maybe him never say. Maybe him never say.
But Colin?
Yes.
Let's put a little bit of meat on the bone as it relates to that.
Talk to me.
The fact is that this is not a criteria
None at
for
all.
Mark Golden to be qualified to offer himself as Prime Minister.
Not at all.
But and certainly Mark, because question raised, Mark also went and did that, renounced his British citizenship, which is not a deterrent for him to offer himself as Prime Minister of Jamaica. On the other hand, the Prime Minister, the sitting Prime Minister, who is seeking a third term in office, he is not certified, and the Constitution of Jamaica says that
requires
both Prime Minister and opposition leader should not just only be certified, but it should be certified and gazetted and published.
And a summary be made public.
Absolutely.
So, Dirty Cup, you need to ask your Prime Minister for his certificate from the Integrity Commission.
He has the proper name, Dirty Cup.
Dirty Cup.
He has the proper name. You can't speak any better.
Obi, you work in the city of Kingston. When I come to the city of Kingston, I get miserable because the traffic is terrible. It is a good thing that I spend some time in the Jamaica Defense Force and I know the city very well. So that kind of saved me. But what is going to happen now that the JUTC is giving up 23 of its route to route taxes, so there will be more cars on the street in Kingston? What effect that will have on commute in the city?
Well, certainly, Colin, you know, based on what we have seen so far, this means that we'll be having much more care and this orderly behavior in the KMTR. That's at the very minimum. That's what I'm seeing, you know. And remember now that there's already issues that the taxi operators are facing where they have been complaining about areas to set down and pick up and all of those sorts of things. So all of those issues have not been addressed. But at the same time, you hear that 23 routes that have been assigned to the JUTC, the government is now giving up those routes. And while I am not one to go against the taxi operator, but certainly within public transportation, we need order because it could be chaotic and nonsensical and non-profitable, even for people who are out there as taxi operators themselves. So even the taxi operators, they need to examine this and call for order from the government of Jamaica within the sector.
Because is there really space in the city for this, for more cars to be in the city? Because I think we're at a stage now where we should be doing something to reduce traffic in the city.
Certainly, Colin. As a matter of fact, we need to look at how much we can have points of set down. Let's say, you even drive your own motor vehicle. Areas that you could easily park your car and get picked up from there in order to take off the heavy traffic off the road in the city. Because all of this, Colin, basically, dovetail into the non-productivity or the lack of, or certainly poor productivity in Jamaica. Because the transportation system in any country is what basically drives your productivity. And that is why cities across the world, transportation system, certainly the government transportation system is not really a revenue earner.
It's not for profit.
Hmm?
It's not for profit.
Not for profit,
For
indeed.
it's for efficiency. Because what is going to happen now is that when you used to take half an hour to get from point A to point B, it is going to now take you 45 minutes.
Also, Colin, there's another issue that one has to look at as well. It's going to be in how do you calibrate this thing as it relates to the expenses that the majority of our people who are at the bottom of the pyramid are already facing, that they would be benefiting from a certain subsidized fare from the JUCC.
There you go.
But
That's another point.
They will have to hug up the full cost of the fare.
That's
How
another
do you
point.
compute that?
And I don't know if you heard.
Colin.
I don't know if you heard the minister came out today and said they're not really giving up the route. JUTC still going to have buses on the route.
So there you have it again. So it's going to be something where the JUTC will become competing with additional taxes on these routes. I don't understand.
You used to play cricket, Obi?
It needs more clarity. You know, I gather you had spokesperson Michael Phillips earlier.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't hear him, but I would take it that he was able to put forward a position on it.
Definitely. You used to play cricket?
Yes, Colin. And
so you used to play catchy shubi?
Absolutely. That's what blood us. That's what blood us in cricket, really.
That's what the minister play, catchy shubi. Anybody catch a ball, bowling.
And for the youngsters who really know just have a gadget in their hands and not doing this, what catchy shubi means is that in the street we usually just play. Some of us used to use what we call coconut bow.
Yes.
That is the thing from the coconut tree. We make a bat out of that. We cut out our bat out of board and we play our cricket in the street. And anybody catch the ball,
bowl it.
Basically, you bowl it, and if you take the wicket, you are turn that bat. So you could be batting any amount of time and bowl it. Once you,
and anybody bowl, you know, have no specific bowler. So
not at all.
It's just like
once you catch the ball is hit and everybody fielding. So once you catch the ball, it is your turn to bowl. You take the wicket, your time to bat.
Obi, I don't know where we're going as a country. I heard the Prime Minister today for the first time give somebody credit for an idea. I don't know if you were listening to the groundbreaking, but he admit that when it comes to logistics and the plans for logistics hub in Jamaica, it is Anthony Hilton is the father. I congratulate. I heard the Prime Minister say that today.
Hold on. It means that certain the Prime Minister is listening to Conor O'Brien, the fireman, and News Talk, and certain the Colin Bell.
Yes.
Because we basically had the minister, we have been carrying the minister, and the minister basically been doubling down on that, reminding Jamaica that he did the heavy lifting, and for 10 years plus.
They have sat down on it. And did nothing.
And it's important for us to say to Jamaica, Colin, that what would have happened now, especially with the tariff issue coming from the United States,
where would we be?
Have alternate routes, because ship would have other avenue.
Hold on there, Obi. Hold on there for me. Hold on there. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Caribbean Radio HD.
So, Colin, you didn't listen to the Prime Minister today, Colin.
Then me not tell us that me gonna listen, me must listen, man. Hold on. You think me can make you come school me and tell me what the Prime Minister say? Me tell us that me gonna listen.
But when me call you and tell me say you have to do something, brother.
Yeah, man, but me gonna listen before me come on.
Okay.
And I listen to the Prime Minister and hear him a big up Anthony Hilton, who is the father for the idea of logistics hub in Jamaica.
So you never see Anthony Hilton there too?
Yes, man. Then him not big up. Yes, man. Then when you talk about logistics hub, it's our idea, not yours.
No, man. I can't say who that come with the idea.
Get away from here. Go listen to the Prime Minister. Go listen to your Prime Minister and tell you later. 305-654-7944. Good evening.
Yeah, Colin, evening.
Welcome to Caribbean Radio.
One quick one. I know you're on with Colin, but I mean with Conrad.
No, man, talk to me.
I have one observation to make.
Yeah.
Few observations, just two.
Yeah.
I heard interaction with Juliet in the committee meeting.
Yes.
And how she dealt with Prince Jackson was arrogant, rude, and disrespectful.
Yeah, man. And she was in the wrong. She analyzed she did right.
Exactly. You can't be wrong and strong.
Yeah.
All right. Secondly, I get the distinct impression they're trying to push through the parish status and make it become a reality. They're trying to speed it up. They're trying to expedite it, which is so wrong.
Yes.
So damn wrong.
They're trying to push it. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so wrong. That's my little 2 cents for the evening. Eh?
All right, my brother.
We're going to listen and be educated.
All right, cool. Obi. Where do I need to get back Obi? Obi? Yes, Obi. We are back with you. We are back with Conrad O'Brien.
Yes, Colin.
Yeah, man, we're back with you.
Colin?
Yes, man, we're back with you, Conrad.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, man. So, turn off the instrument.
I'm not hearing you, Colin.
Turn off the instrument. You have to turn off the instrument.
Yes, Colin. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Colin?
You hear me now?
Colin?
Yes, Obi, we are hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Not hearing Colin at all.
Let me reconnect. Let me reconnect to Conrad O'Brien. Because we're taking your calls on 876-804-7072. I want to call back OB over that side. Let me try him back on this so we can take your calls at the same time and he can hear you without going to another device. OB, you're back with us.
Yes, Colin.
Yeah.
Before we get back to where we were with the transportation system, the JUTC.
Yeah.
What the gentleman just said, the call, I want to just quickly say something on that.
Yes.
You know, as it relates to the indecent haste that it would appear that the government is trying to use to push through this scenario based on the utterance from Andrew Wheatley at a meeting in Portmore on Sunday. Mm-hmm. You know, he basically telegraphed where the government is. However, what is important is that the ECJ, that's the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, that the court ruling had basically said, listen, this must basically throw over to them now for them to actually do their work. They said that, listen, this will take at least 1 year plus for them to do all the logistics, the mapping and whatever and so on. And there is a template for that. So they were able to give that example, which was when the last changes took place, where 3 additional constituencies were created, right? 2 in St. Catherine and one in St. James, and that, Colin, that did not have to do with the changing of a parish. So let alone now, you know. And I think that took them about 16 months or so to complete it. So let alone now, you should have more. And as Fitz Jackson said on my program the other day, that he take the ECJ advice to be a professional advice. Therefore, we don't expect the ECJ to basically be woodwinked and to play the government drumbeat.
Well, Conrad, there was a sitting of the constituency and borders committee today, and
the boundary committee.
The boundary committee. Yes, they sat today, and the ECJ told them that they could not give them a timeline at this point. Maybe when they come back in May. But if you heard Juliet Holness in the parliament today, you would think that the whole parish thing is done and dusted. In fact, she said it's cast in stone. Well, let's take this caller. We have a caller here. Caller, go ahead. Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Welcome to the show.
I'm just letting you know that the third term is loading and no can't stop unruliness.
Okay, and what do you expect from the third term? Oh, the third term is the people's term, right? She gone. So Andrew Holness and the GLP take 2 terms for themselves, and they are now telling us that the third term is the people's term.
Well, all one will have to do is to point to the mayhem and the chaos that is certainly taking place within the Labour Party now, Colin. Even place that they would have had candidates set long ago, now they're having difficulty in finding a good candidate, a suitable candidate to put there. The fact of the matter, Colin, is that listening to the people moving around on the ground, the people are saying that, listen, they're over Andrew Holness and the JLP government now. Andrew should go ahead and call the election. So the lady, that's her opinion, that's her view. But maybe what she should do, since she's so confident, is send a message, do some petition
and tell him to call the election.
And tell the Prime Minister call the election.
We have a caller holding.
Because we're still in our democracy.
We have a call holding. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, bless up yourself, Colin. Bless up yourself, Obi.
Marshy, what go on, brother?
The caller a while ago is right. The third term shouldn't stop because the third term should be a prison term. So there should be a third term. And listen, the parish that they are pushing for, remember that Duncy and Marie Vaz did take away a parish from us.
Oh, it said it was 13.
Right.
That was a mistake. She made an error.
Well, you call it that. But what the woman said, remember the woman, a member of parliament, she's not supposed to be a dunce or a fool,
Not at all. And she isn't.
If she's a dunce or a fool, I must vote for her dunce.
And she's not a dunce and she's not a fool.
And she's not a fool. Because she know. Me no know she know the heights of great men. Me no know she know. Me no know she know. One thing me know, if a somebody write it there, the person dunce. Because I read, Mr. She read it.
Well, you see, she made the poem her own. Sometimes we sing some song and we change the ear and we change the beat and make the song our own. So what she did with the poem, she made it hers.
And remember, she's a dancing queen.
All right, my brother. Marsh.
Oh, my God.
Hold on, Marsh. Hold on. Hello, good evening. Yeah, man. What go on?
Yeah, good evening.
Talk to me.
Huh? The lady just come on and said third term loaded. Sometimes when you see the problem when we have a lot of these persons, when them come on and say certain things, and you ask them, what has the government done in the last 9 years? Because when I look at the Prime Minister right now, and he make a speech on Sunday, the PMP is like a dog, a chase behind a car.
Hold on, a PGA lyrics that. The Prime Minister a pirate. A PGA lyrics that.
Yeah, but it's that kind of...
I'm having difficulty in hearing the caller. What lyric is that?
Hold on, Obi. It's kind of a bit low. Caller, can you speak up in the phone for us, please? You're a bit low.
Yeah. Each time the Prime Minister talk, it's that Prime Minister talk. He's talking so angry.
You're using a headset? Hold on, you're using a headset?
I'm not using a headset.
No, that's better. Make we hear you like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm saying, each time the Prime Minister talks, him sounds so angry. If you know that you have done so much, why is it that every time you're talking about what you're going to do, you're supposed to assure your prosperity already? You know, for time you're going to do this, you're going to do the whole man and sing all the Christmas gifts you're going to come.
Well,
and these persons, when you ask them third term loading, what is the third term loading? If you look at some of these persons now, you'll be ashamed to know how they are surviving. Some of them not even working now.
But you see, the lady just came on.
Like me and you now.
The lady just came on and she said third term loading. She didn't ask no question. She didn't allow for any question. She just said.
Because some of these persons can't even understand what it is. Them they are just political bias. Them don't understand the boy is a greater good for them picking for the next year or the next 5 years or the next 10 years or the generation to come. Some of them not think about them picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them not think about the country, them just think about party.
Yeah, them not think. All right, my brother, enough respect. Obi, you heard him? You heard him, Obi? Obi? We lost Obi. This one says it's reconnecting. I don't know if it's us or is Obi reconnecting. Tell him. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Caribbean Radio HD.
Reconnect. Don't know if it is us or.
Hello?
Even a Sir Colin.
Yeah, man. Go ahead. Walk on.
Why? I wonder why this country be like this, because let me tell you something. You see what the 9 years of the JLP bring out the Jamaica people? Pure illiteracy. Pure uneducated people. When you take a look at your own mayor, in Portland, the mayor in St. Thomas, and now this council lady in Portmore. That's what the 9 years bring us.
Well, we have to revel in the achievements.
But you see, she's right. Man. Well, you see, them flipping up, them sleeping.
Yes, they're still sleeping.
You understand what I say?
They're still sleeping.
Them sleeping.
And them never got through the night, you know. They toil in the night. They never got through it.
They never got through it. Yeah.
All right, my brother. All right. No respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Respect. Obi.
Yeah. Colin.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to ask you a favor.
Yeah, man.
Each term, when PJ Patterson was the Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Yes.
Each term that he came to the people and asked the people to re-elect him as Prime Minister, he trot out his achievement.
There was a song, you know,
and
Obi.
This is the song that I'm going to ask you to find that song. That was the last term. The last term.
There was a song that says, "Don't stop the progress." Talking about some solid achievement.
Indeed, it's called Solid Achievement. It was produced by Patrick Roberts.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Don't stop the progress.
We need to, that song need to be played. That song need to be played. And that is why when I hear people come, and even sometimes even PNP people come and just use and say PJ was the greatest political person, Prime Minister, politically. It's not just politics. PJ Patterson, in terms of transforming Jamaica into a modern space,
the greatest
is arguably, without any fear of successful contradiction, is the most successful Prime Minister that this country have seen. With all due respect to Michael Manley. Because what Michael did was a different transformation that Michael did. The legislation, the social legislative agenda to include things like the National Housing Trust, because the National Housing Trust was a part of the transformation at that time. Because what it did was to build out house and, to use the late Professor Rutherford term, create Somatization for Jamaica.
Yes.
Colin, we're walking encyclopedia, you know.
Equal pay.
We're not no boy to come chum round here, you know.
Equal pay for women.
And we challenge any guy to come and test with.
That's why they can't forward.
We challenge any guy to come and test us.
The people in the chat room at Caribbean Radio, they've been saying to me from my command that where the labor right them, why the labor right them now come. They can't come because, as I told you all, truth and the labor rights now have no lot in our part. And when it comes to the development of Jamaica, it is the People's National Party that has developed this country. So they can't really come here so because we have knowledge. Yeah? So them can't come tell we no crap round here.
Raymond Price in an interview yesterday on CVM TV with George Davis, and George could not make a comeback from when Raymond said. He said that the JLP not only fought the Integrity Commission, but they fought integrity.
Of course.
Integrity.
Of course.
You understand? when I heard it from the lyrically Raymond Price, I said, "Oh my golly!"
No, and then Obi, yeah. If you look at the two teams, going into to the general election, it's a joke. It's a joke. The PNP have a far superior team when it comes to intellectuality, knowledge, ability, experience. A far superior team.
Certainly, there's a easy cabinet to be found from the People's National Party, and the PNP will have a very deep bench.
Maxine over there at Caribbean Radio saying she would love to hear from a GLP person.
Well, one called just recently.
But they
one
couldn't
called
stay.
just a while ago, and what happened? The person take away herself. You
Yeah.
did not touch her. She basically was asked a question, and if I may, Colin, just play host here for 1 second, please, listeners from who are supporters of the Jamaican Labour
Hold on,
Party.
Obi.
Colin,
Hold a sec, Obi. Want to say thanks to all the people over there on Caribbean Radio. They're going to be leaving us now. Thanks for joining us. Do remember to join us next week. And for those of you who have not yet contributed to the Telethon, please contribute to the Telethon on Caribbean Radio HD. Thanks to Brother Gary and the crew. Join us next week, Tuesday evening, live on Caribbean Radio HD, as we give you so much more on the Colin Bell Show. Go ahead, Obi. Hold on, Showerman. Yeah, Obi, finish up that statement.
Bring in Showerman. Let's hear it. I was actually inviting persons who are supporters of the Jamaica Labour Party to call in, because sir, we invite everybody. We entertain. All we ask for, Colin, on these programs are for people to exercise a modicum of decency. That's all.
Man. Showerman gone, him run. Him no stay.
Showerman come back in, man. What? Showerman can't buy credit. Him supposed to have data on him phone, man.
Him have credit, man, but him not have the argument. Him not have the argument.
Okay.
Obi.
Okay.
Obi.
Yeah.
A couple of things before we go. Where we are now, as it relates to this Montego Bay issue, where they are taking down the paraphernalias of the People's National Party.
All right, Colin, just allow me quickly just to close the chapter on the JUTC in 2 minutes. The JUTC, one has to wonder if it is a result of the bus that are lacking within the JUTC, why they now resort to give up those routes. Just remind Jamaica that when the PNP leave office, when Dr. Garnet Roper and Colin Campbell was chairman and managing director respectively, the JUTC was rolling out 450 bucks every single sanitary day. They had things that called the double bubble and so on, and they were basically on the verge of breaking even at that point. So they basically rolled out a template and showed Jamaican people that it can be done. I remember people were basically exciting and praising the system. The buses were very clean and everything, and people believed that we were on the scuff of basically developing what could be described as a first world transportation system. Since this government took over office, it had gone down to dirt.
Less than 200.
Well, I must say I haven't seen it for the last couple of weeks, but certainly every single morning, journeying into Kingston, at least 2 or 3 buses, you could see breakdown.
Hold on, Obi. Hold on. I came to Kingston on. It's when we went to Kingston. We went to Kingston the other day, and I count 6 buses that has been broken down in the one day, and I never stay at Kingston long. Last week,
Absolutely.
Tuesday, came into Kingston to do some business. And I went to about 3 different locations. And during that sojourn into Kingston and back out, 6 buses on the roadside broken down.
And this Colin is where the rubber hits the road. The labor rights are people who support this administration. They're seeing it too, and I challenge any one of them to come who traverse the Kingston and St. Andrew region to say that we're lying. I challenge any one of them to come out and say the people are complaining. Areas that they used to have several whatever number bus, some of them have none now or only have one. That is the hard cold facts. You know, the JUTC is a shadow of what it used to be up to 2016.
Gone.
Up to 2016. And it is the similar thing, Colin, that we're seeing from the people, that basket that the Prime Minister held up in Parliament when he was campaigning.
Oh, God.
For $4,000. Now the $4,000 can't even buy that big chicken that was in the basket. This is a truism. The people are suffering. The people are worse off now than they were in 2016.
Big time. Like up the video, people. We have about 600 people. We have about 600 people watching the program right now. Click the like button. It doesn't cost to click the like button. Like up the video. Make we carry it up to 500 likes. OB.
Yes, Colin. So now the Montego Bay is FUB.
What is the latest on the Montego Bay?
All right. Well, as the Gleaner carried yesterday, I had to read that story yesterday on radio. The Gleaner carried yesterday that there's a lawsuit that is brewing now with the PNP and the JLP, because certainly in the case of Andre Hartnum,
yes.
Billboard, the mayor in St. James, they took them down and he asked for them to be replaced. And he actually gave a timeline. Suffice it to say that timeline was never met. So it's now take another turn, because I can't repeat verbatim no, but there is a time frame as to after election that your billboards are allowed, can be up and so on. And when those billboards were taken down, the time was still in vogue. But also on what is happening is that, as Andre pointed out in our video, where his billboard were taken down, the mayor and JLP billboard were actually there in the same space in St. James.
Long after the election.
Who went out and took down those billboards. Apparently, their eyes, they had blind eyes when it came to green. They were only able to see the orange color billboard, obviously. So all in all, Colin, if I may, Colin, and if I may, that is why I am in full support with Cafe, the watchdog group, who came out yesterday and said, listen, they are calling for the re-establishment of the political ombudsman office, even for a temporary period, because the ombudsman office has a lot of things to monitor. We saw on the political platform over there in Portmore, where the Senate President, Tom Tavares Finston, said something that certainly I think that would attract a call from the Ombudsman office. And there were just other things that are being said in the political Austin. Certainly, we have to lend our voice to that. And, we know that surrogates of the Prime Minister and the Labour Party listening right now. And I would love them to raise their voice and say, PM, it's time for you to reinstitute the political ombudsman office right now as a standalone body, not a part of the ECJ, but as a standalone body, so the political ombudsman can start monitoring now. I'll close this chapter, Colin, by saying also to the Prime Minister, and I remember, and to the public sector, the private sector organization, I remember some time ago,
I can't remember who was prime minister. It was a PNP, under the PNP, and the private sector actually came out and said, listen, the fact that the politics is in the offing and a campaign start, they said that, listen, the government of the day should call the election and get over it quickly, because it could be of some hindrance for business in Jamaica. I'm saying that now that the political campaign is on in full earnest, the Prime Minister should do the decent thing and go to the poll. Ask the people, say that he's going for a mandate. The people, in their wisdom, will decide whether or not they allow him to continue, or they usher in the man who is certified, Mark Jefferson Golden, Mark A.G., or will they stay with Andrew Michael Raddenberg at Holdings? Those are the questions on the table at this time.
As we wrap up, Obi, I want to wrap up in style for this week.
Yes.
The elections, the campaign is on in earnest. How do we see the elections going? Who will win? And I want to ask you parish by parish. And I want to talk about two parishes this evening. Two parishes this evening. I want to ask you about...
Colin, why are you putting me on the spot?
I want to ask you about St. Thomas in the east and Westmoreland. There are 3 seats in Westmoreland. How many of those seats you think the GLP will take?
Colin, I'm not a betting man. I'm not a betting man, but on this one, I'm prepared to wager a little money. And I'm prepared to say that...
Tell me about the GLP first. How much?
Well, the GLP will be wiped out.
So you're saying that the GLP will not get any seat in Westmoreland?
Not one. As a matter of fact, I say it now without any fear of successful contradiction, that Westmoreland had already gone orange. It's just a matter of time when the ballot will be placed in the box that the General Secretary starting at the eastern side, Dr. Dayton Campbell, can take his suits to the cleaners, because he will be going up Duke Street. And also in the central part of the parish, young Dwayne Vaz will be
going back.
Will be returned as a second-time member of Parliament. And over in Western Westmoreland, obviously Ian Eales will be returning to the Parliament of Jamaica. I am prepared, as I said, to wager some money there, and Westmoreland will return to its former glory of being an orange.
Hold on. We have a caller holding, and I want to just read some comment before they come off. Dotty Cup, you need to tell me how much seat the GLP going to win in Westmoreland. But we have Estina, so PNP going to win all 3. Jody Roberts, no, she never tell me none. Arlene, Colin, Westmoreland, no, not even 1 for the GLP. Hold on, Dotty Cup is saying, no, I'm not tell you how much seat yet. Who else is giving us some numbers? Coral Allen says all 3. Caller, good evening.
Good evening, Chaka.
Yeah, man.
Boy, I'm get something straight. Who will up Portmore? Because we hear the Prime Minister, they're on his stage one night of Siaga will up Portmore.
No, he was saying that Portmore was Siaga's vision. But I'm sure you would have heard Damian Crawford told you from when the whole vision of Portmore started, what had to be done before houses start to build in Portmore. It was Norman Washington Manley's vision to develop Portmore.
Exactly.
And the truth of it also is that PNP build more houses in Portmore than any other party.
Than any other party. Because I usually live in Portmore. So I know that. So when I heard him last night on his platform telling lie, saying that is the PNP is the liar. I don't understand that, man.
That man.
He shouldn't be on the ballot.
Well, we're going to discuss that, you know. We're going to have a proper town hall meeting discussing that, you know. I promise you all that I'm going to put together a big show to discuss the Prime Minister's statutory filing. But we'll talk again, K-Man.
Okay, Shaka.
Bless up. Obi.
Colin.
Yeah.
Colin, just remind your listeners and viewers that what happened, there is a litany of things that Andrew Holness and the JLP trying to own to say that they are the father for. And apparently these guys really just love wear jacket. Because take, for example, even the stability of the economy and the downward trajectory of the debt. It is the PNP. As a matter of fact, let's remind the listeners, Colin, that the only time that the JP government has basically been in office and assist in paying down the debt
is this
term. And it had started on the PNP.
And laws were put in place. Laws were put in place to ensure that they do it, that they couldn't do nothing else.
Absolutely. When Siaga leave office in 1989, the debt to GDP was 262%. I want the listeners and viewers to understand that. And, you know, Colin, I pride myself as someone who really, I said over and over that my first job after leaving school, I was a preacher and teacher. So I pride myself in disseminating information. I try to educate as much as possible. So whenever I get on air, that is really my mantra.
Yes.
So we want to basically share those things with the listeners and viewers. Also, within the 4 years that the JLP don't talk about, the Jamaican economy shrunk like 5 percentage points. Christopherson, who is now the Minister of Health, he was Minister of Agriculture. The agriculture sector also shrunk by 5%. That is not me, said so. But take statin
and get the figures.
The numbers are there.
Let's go to St. Thomas. How many seats will the GLP win in St. Thomas in the upcoming election?
I have St. Thomas as 1-1. I have St. Thomas as 1-1. I'm hearing some good information coming out of there that former Mayor Williams is doing a lot of heavy lifting. But as it is right now, I have penciled Eastern St. Thomas for PNP as well. I would have to get some more data, Colin, and look at some things in a more intricate way. Because as you know, we don't just talk because we want to talk. We talk from empirical data and this and the finding, the work that we do on the ground and so on. I don't have enough and Western St. Thomas
next week,
this time to
next week, Tuesday evening. So Obi saying Westmoreland, all 3 for the PNP. St. Thomas, 1-1. Next week, Obi, next week, we're going to be looking at Hanover and my parish of Portland. Next week, Wednesday evening, we look at that again. All right, my brethren? Anything,
indeed, Colin,
anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Just to say to people that listen, join the space. Of course, you have a big space here with Colin Bell. There are other people who are giving information, real factual information. Join us. You can join me on News Talk 93 FM Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 until 12. We're also up on the Conrad OB TikTok page. From time to time, you can join me doing a live, and so we're putting it out there, and we are not basically just doing it from a biased point of view, Colin. We are going where the data take us, and we are not afraid to call it. We know that some people will be uncomfortable. We are going where the data take us, and we are not afraid to call it. We know that some people will be uncomfortable, but it's just part of the course.
All right, my brother.
Part of the course.
No respect.
All the best, Colin.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Later.
God bless you.
All right.
God bless.
Viewers and listeners, like up the video, no man. Touch up the like button. Touch up the thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up if you appreciate what we do here on a Tuesday and a Wednesday on Caribbean Radio and on Portland Spice TV. Asking you all to be ambassadors for Portland Spice TV. Be a Portland Spice TV ambassador. Send the link to your friends and family. Ask them to subscribe to the channel. We could build this channel bigger and further so that we can get the information out to more people. Because what we talk here at the Foxing, and I tell you all, I am not a blogger. I'm a broadcaster. So I put my reputation on this. We don't come on this for yap and just talk. We talk truth. We put the facts out there and the chips fall where they may. So subscribe to the channel, like up the video, share it up. Be a Portland Spice ambassador as we go forward into this new direction, because we need to rescue Jamaica. We need to rescue Jamaica. We have people on this platform who are critical thinkers. We have people on this platform who understands the economy, who understands the running of our country, and who respects the truth. And that is what we pride ourselves about. So until we meet again Saturday morning, and I'm thinking right now that we need to hear from Ralston Saturday morning. Long time we not talk to Ralston, a couple of weeks, and a lot has been happening. Business confidence are down in Jamaica. Business confidence is down. And Trump has done a lot of things. And we need to talk to Ralston, man. So I want to set it tentatively that Saturday morning, join us 9 a.m. Jamaica time, 10 a.m. over there in the US. Yeah? And make it 3 p.m. in the UK. Join me Saturday morning for enough more right here. We are rescue Jamaica from your wicked and uncaring government. Rescuing Jamaica from the leader that has no integrity. That his integrity commission filing has not been certified. Rescuing Jamaica from the team that have 7 more people who are under investigation for illicit enrichment. Now ask me question, Dr. Cup, you will get answer. I will give you answers. So, listeners and viewers, thank you very much. May the good Lord continue to bless and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord Jesus Christ lift up his light and give you his peace, now and forevermore. Who God bless, no man curse. We now fight them. Almighty God will fight the battle for us. He's fighting the battle. And we bless him and thank him and praise his holy name. One Jesus Christ are the greatest. Blessings, my people. Join me Saturday morning right here on Portland Spice TV. One love.